Oh my goodness, I didn't see you there. Huh. Thank God I have this microphone that I just so conveniently put here. My name is Aiden Hennessy. I'm the mind behind the dojo Beyond Time and Space. As of this recording, we've put on roughly 40 DIY shows. Very recently, I did a video on how to work sound. This is a continuation in the same series. We're calling it How to DIY. And in this video, I'm going to take you through some of the very basic mechanics of putting on a DIY show. So maybe you and your friends can put one on for yourselves. In this video, I'm going to be speaking in super broad terms, so it all might sound kind of like vague, but definitionally DIY is any show that you put on, maybe with the help of a couple of friends. And it can be whatever you'd like. It can be art, comedy, fashion. Most people think of concerts when they think of the DIY scene, but I don't think that's necessarily the case. When you go to put on your DIY show, there's a couple of questions you need to answer. The first of those questions is where? One of the hardest things to figure out in the DIY space. Need a place where residents are okay with loud noises late in the night, or maybe where nearby folks can't hear. We're all the way up in an attic, so folks on ground level, it's a little bit quieter. It's really helps us with noise complaints. A few of the other things you might want to consider are maximum occupancy, where folks can use the bathroom, acoustics, those sorts of things. You know, so like really think out in your mind like what is going to be relevant to the space. And think if those amenities are appropriate for the type of show you're putting on. You know, a fashion show, you might be a little more concerned with lighting and the sort of length of the room as opposed to something like acoustics. You have your place figured out, then you sort of have to start asking what you're going to need. There are certain infrastructural things that need to be in place. If I'm being totally objective, the only thing you really strictly need are lights and readily available outlets. Generally speaking, as the venue, you're expected to have at least a speaker or what they call a PA. People are going to ask you about your backline. That's part of the infrastructure we're talking about. So that includes PAs, wires, mics, but it also includes stuff like bass amps, guitar amps, drum. You really want to prioritize the drum kit first. Usually bands will provide their own bass amp and guitar amp. It is a very nice value add though. Once you have all of those things in place, it's time to put your individual show together. This starts with what we call putting together a lineup. This includes reaching out to performers and sort of putting together a synergistic lineup. I'm a huge fan of Midwest emo and I love hip hop, but I wouldn't necessarily put them on a bill together unless, you know, that's sort of the draw.
Yes, precious few have ever survived their quest to mount my ass!
We're gonna fucking die.
We are going to die!
This quest is brought to you by desperation! We're all attention whores!
Zulk envies you, for you get to be friends with Zulk!
David Britton and he's a dick.
Hail David Britton!
Hello, David Britton!
No, you hail me! You hail me!
Hail the Goblin Princess!
No!
Something about this right here feels distant.
Now that you have a lineup, you're gonna have to get the word out for your individual show. That's usually done in the form of a poster. When I get a poster, I come up with the general outline for the text and the general vision for what I want aesthetically, and then I reach out to an artist that I like and find very visually eye-drawing. The poster should include a couple basics, like what, where, how much, and when. I'm going to put on the screen a couple examples of posters that I think did it really well, and you can look over these. I think I'm going to do another video going into detail about what makes a poster really eye-popping and great for your show. The what is pretty easy. What's the general vibe of your acts, the lineup, and when you list them on the poster, generally speaking, people expect you to list them in the order that they're performing. So at the very bottom would be your first performer of the night, and then at the top of the poster would be the headliner or the top of the bill. I don't want to get too into the weeds on when, because it's pretty simple. It's the day and the time that it's occurring, right? There are a couple things you have to consider with time, right? Let's say it's 11 o'clock on a Tuesday, you're sort of limiting your audience, right? But on the other hand, if you have a show at Friday at 9 p.m., you're going to have tons of competition with your other DIY shows in town. How much is a touchy subject in the DIY scene? The DIY scene is built off of being as accessible as possible. However, that needs to be weighed against the concept of paying performers an exposure. You know, we have this idea where you can pay artists less if you get a bunch of eyeballs on them, and that gain in popularity will lead to future earnings for them, and then it sort of works out for everyone in the end. I personally find a lot of flaws in this rationale. So those are two things you have to weigh against. That accessibility, getting as much turnout as possible, setting a lower price, versus paying your artists their fair share. Where is often a tough one for DIY shows. You'll see a lot of DM for address. However, you also need to make sure they know where to DM, because they might see it outside of the context of where you posted it. So, for example, on my posters it says, DM at the Dojo Beyond for address, or DM at the Dojo Beyond on YouTube for address. Now the only thing left to do is to put on a killer ass show. Generally speaking, for a show you really only need 2 people, one person to run sound and one person to run door. Here at the dojo, you might notice that I do both some nights. It doesn't necessarily even take 2 people, but everything's more fun with friends. Of those 2 jobs, I know there are technical aspects to working sound that make it intimidating for people just starting, but I think the door guy has it way harder. Like, you obviously don't charge any of the band members, but do you charge the guitarist's girlfriend? You don't charge the bassist's girlfriend because they don't exist. Am I right? Sound guys are a little bit harder to come by as opposed to door guys, but you can help that. You can check out one of our previous videos, how to work sound. Now all that's left to do is enjoy your show and give yourself a pat on the back. Enjoy your DIY journey.